Okay, so I keep seeing questions like this. You haven't tried the hanger method. Tell me, who the fuck is gonna stick a hanger up their vagina? Be for real. Who the fuck is gonna do that? But, like, have y'all watched American Horror Stories? I'm gonna try to put it in here. Hold on. But yeah, this hoe right here, she stuck a hanger up her vagina to kill the damn baby. Blood came out and everything. But guess what? Like 20 years later, the bitch came back and tried to kill her, and she had to kill him. So no.
Mama was in blood. Mama is sleeping. These haunting words came from toddlers, too young to understand they were describing their mother's murder. The children of 18-year-old Gabriella Dixon had witnessed the unthinkable, their father killing their mother while they watched. In Macon, Georgia, Gabriella Dixon's life was violently cut short by the man who had already choked her, held her at gunpoint, and shot at her car with their children inside. Despite documented violence and formal charges, Reginald Harris III remained free long enough to commit the ultimate act of domestic terror, murdering the mother of his children and hiding her body where it wouldn't be found for 9 agonizing months. In this episode of Dark Trace Crime Stories, we'll dissect the brutal timeline of Gabriella's final day. Most disturbingly, you'll learn why women between 18 to 24 are statistically the most likely to be murdered by intimate partners, and why non-fatal strangulation, like what Gabriella experienced, increases homicide risk by 750%. Welcome to Dark Trace Crime Stories, where we venture into the darkest corners of human behavior to understand not just what happened, but why. If you're new here, welcome. Kindly take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an investigation. Now, let's uncover the dark truth behind Gabriella Dixon's murder.
Continues for one Macon family searching for a missing loved one. Gabriella Dixon, the young mother of 2, hasn't been seen or heard from since late October when she was supposed to be dropped off at her father's home by her ex-boyfriend and the father of her children. Dixon's mother has organized several search parties to look for her daughter. The family and friends also gathered for a rally calling for help in finding Gabby.
I still want her found. I still want her found. I still want her home. If she has expired, I still need closure.
Friends called her Gabby, a firecracker with a heart of gold. At just 18, Gabriella Dixon carried responsibilities far beyond her years, raising 2 small children while trying to navigate the treacherous waters of an increasingly violent relationship. Born and raised in Macon, Georgia, Gabby was known for her warm personality and fierce, protective instinct. While most teenagers worry about college applications or weekend plans, Gabby's world revolved around diaper changes, feeding schedules, and creating stability for her toddlers. She embraced motherhood with a maturity that surprised everyone around her. Those babies lit up whenever she walked into the room, her mother, Gabriella Circe, would later tell investigators. This bond between Gabby and her children wasn't just the center of her world. It would ultimately be what made her murder all the more devastating. 2 children wouldn't just lose their mother. They would witness her violent death at the hands of their father. Gabby lived part-time with her mother, who provided crucial support as the young woman balanced the demands of early motherhood. This arrangement became increasingly important as Gabby's relationship with Reginald Harris III deteriorated into a pattern of control, threats, and violence. What distinguished Gabby wasn't just her devotion to her children, but her growing recognition that she needed to escape Harris for both her safety and her children's future. By fall 2023, she had begun taking concrete steps to distance herself, staying more frequently with family members and attempting to establish boundaries with Harris. The contrast between Gabby's youth and her heavy responsibilities creates the first layer of tragedy in this story. She was still developing as a person while guiding 2 new lives. Her social media showed a proud mother posting pictures and messages about her children, normal moments of joy that would soon be shattered by violence. In a community where young motherhood wasn't uncommon, Gabby stood out for her dedication and resilience. She wasn't perfect. No teenager thrust into such adult responsibilities could be. But those who knew her recognized her commitment to growth and her determination to provide her children with stability and love. This was Gabriella Dixon, barely an adult herself, but shouldering adult responsibilities, vulnerable but strong, a mother whose love for her children drove her to seek safety. Safety that would be violently taken from her before she could secure it. The relationship between Gabriella and Reginald Harris, 3, began when she was in her mid-teens. Like most abusive relationships, it didn't start with violence. The control, isolation, and abuse escalated gradually, following a pattern that domestic violence experts have documented in thousands of similar cases. By September 2023, what had once been a teenage romance had morphed into something deadly. Police reports from this period reveal a rapid escalation of violence that foreshadowed the murder to come. One incident stands out with particular horror. According to official warrants, Harris choked Gabriella inside their apartment. As she struggled for breath, a sensation experts describe as similar to drowning. He held her at gunpoint. His message was unmistakable. If she tried to leave him, he would kill her. This wasn't an empty threat. Research consistently shows that non-fatal strangulation is one of the strongest predictors of future homicide in domestic violence cases. When an abuser puts their hands around a victim's throat, they are demonstrating both the ability and willingness to take a life. The violence wasn't contained to Gabriella. In another terrifying incident, Harris allegedly shot at Gabriella's car while their 2 young children were inside. This willingness to endanger not just Gabriella, but their own children demonstrated the extreme danger Harris posed to the entire family. These weren't private matters that remained hidden. By fall 2023, Harris had been formally charged with aggravated assault, terroristic threats, and battery involving family violence. The legal system was aware of the danger. Reports had been filed. The violence was documented. Yet Harris remained in Gabriella's life, connected through their children. This is the cruel reality for many victims of intimate partner violence. Complete separation becomes nearly impossible when children are involved. Court-mandated visitations and custody arrangements often keep victims tethered to their abusers, creating ongoing opportunities for control, manipulation, and violence. Gabriella's family later reported that her attempts to create distance from Harris were met with intimidation and manipulation, classic tactics abusers use to maintain control. When victims try to leave, abusers typically escalate their behavior, making the period of separation the most dangerous time in an abusive relationship. By October 2023, Gabriella was actively trying to limit her contact with Harris, staying more frequently with family members and establishing a support network. She was doing what domestic violence experts recommend, creating distance while maintaining a safety net of people who could help protect her. The tragedy of Gabriella's story deepens when we recognize that she was taking steps to protect herself. She wasn't ignoring the danger or minimizing the threat. She recognized the risk Harris posed and was actively working to mitigate it. But like so many young women in similar situations, the very act of trying to leave put her in the greatest danger. Have you ever witnessed warning signs like these in relationships around you? Have you seen someone trapped in a situation where leaving seemed impossible? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insight might help someone else recognize a dangerous situation before it's too late. Now, let's examine the final day of Gabriella's life and the devastating chain of events that led to her murder and the 9-month search for her body. By October 2023, every moment between Gabriella Dixon and Reginald Harris, 3, carried a sense of danger that everyone around her could feel. The warning signs had been building for weeks, each incident more violent than the last, yet the system that was supposed to protect her kept allowing Harris to walk free. In September, Harris had choked Gabriella and held her at gunpoint, threatening to kill her if she ever tried to leave. Charges were filed, but he remained out of custody while the case made its slow way through the courts. Later that same month, he fired shots at Gabriella's car while their children were still inside. It was an escalation that should have triggered immediate restrictions on contact, supervised visitation, and a formal safety plan. None of that happened. Gabriella, left to fend for herself, tried to protect her children the only way she could, by spending more time with relatives and limiting her contact with Harris. Even then, no one stepped in to formally safeguard her or recognize that she was entering the most dangerous phase of abuse: separation. Research has long shown that women who have been strangled by a partner are more than 7 times more likely to be killed by that same abuser. Every possible red flag was already waving. Then came October 30th, 2023. That morning began like so many before it, uneasy but routine. Harris was supposed to drop Gabriella off at her father's home, a brief exchange connected only by the logistics of their children. Yet these handoffs, according to domestic violence experts, are among the most perilous times for victims trying to leave. What happened during that exchange remains known only to Harris, but by that evening, the devastating outcome was clear. When Harris showed up at Gabriella's mother's house later that day, he had both children with him, but Gabriella was nowhere to be found. Her mother's alarm was immediate. Gabriella would never willingly abandon her kids. That fear turned to horror when the children began to speak. According to the missing person report, the 2-year-old quietly said, "Mama was in blood," while the older child added, "Mama is sleeping." They were too young to understand what they had seen, but their words revealed everything. Gabriella's mother called Harris repeatedly, demanding to know where her daughter was. He was evasive and suspicious, behavior that only deepened her dread. By the following day, she reported Gabriella missing, setting off what would become a 9-month search that consumed the family and the Macon community. Deputies from the Bibb County Sheriff's Office began investigating immediately. Volunteers organized search parties that combed through wooded trails and parks, places like Carolyn Creighton Park and the Okmulgee Heritage Trail, holding on to the fragile hope that Gabriella might still be alive. Her family printed flyers, held vigils, and pleaded with anyone who might know something to come forward. They refused to let Gabriella become just another name on a cold case file, even as statistics and gut instinct told them what they already feared, that Harris was responsible, and that Gabriella would never be coming home. As detectives dug deeper, Harris's story began to unravel. He was arrested on several charges, including tampering with evidence and domestic violence, related assault, yet he continued to deny knowing what had happened to Gabriella. Before long, investigators discovered that he hadn't acted alone. A 19-year-old associate, Jatarvius D'Angelo Price, had given false statements to mislead police about Gabriella's last known whereabouts. That deception pointed to something far more sinister than a spontaneous outburst. It suggested premeditation, planning, and an attempted cover-up. Price was briefly released on bond in November 2023, but his freedom didn't last. As more evidence surfaced, both men became central to what investigators were now treating as a murder case. Still, without Gabriella's body, the family was forced to wait, haunted by uncertainty and tormented by the memory of their grandchildren's words. "Mama was in blood. Mama is sleeping." For 9 long months, that sentence became a quiet refrain in every conversation, every vigil, every sleepless night. Detectives combed through digital trails, phone data, and surveillance footage, building their case piece by piece. Gabriella's mother, Gabriella Searcy, clung to hope, but also to reality. She had always known what Harris was capable of. What she didn't know was where her daughter had been left. Then, on July 24th, 2024, everything changed. A construction crew working near Bowdoin Road in Monroe County, Georgia, stumbled upon human remains in a wooded area beside 2 active work sites. When deputies arrived, the evidence, clothing, red hair, and personal items, strongly indicated the remains belonged to Gabriella Dixon. Her mother was 99% sure, she told reporters through tears. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation soon confirmed through DNA what the family already knew in their hearts. After 267 days, the search was over. The Dixon family could finally begin to mourn. They held a memorial service on August 10, 2024, honoring a young mother whose life had been taken far too soon. That same week, arrest warrants were issued charging Reginald Harris III with murder. Both Harris and Price were denied bond. Investigators concluded that Gabriella had likely been killed within hours of that October 30th drop-off, before Harris brought the children to her mother's home that evening. Those haunting words from the toddlers had always been the truth. The wooded area near Bowdoin Road was a quiet, unassuming place, one that had never known violence before. "We never have something like this happen here," said local resident Shirley Appling. "It's heartbreaking to think her mom spent months not knowing." For those 9 agonizing months, while her family searched and prayed, Gabriella's body had lain hidden in those woods, a final, cruel act by the man who had already taken everything from her. As of October 2025, both Reginald Harris III and Jatarvius D'Angelo Price remain in custody at the Bibb County Law Enforcement Center. Harris faces charges of murder, aggravated assault, and battery, domestic violence, while Price is charged with conspiracy connected to the killing. The path to justice has been marked by delays and complications. In February 2025, Harris was stabbed during a violent altercation inside the detention center, briefly bringing renewed media attention to the case. Despite this incident, the legal process continues, with both defendants awaiting trial. Gabriella's family has expressed frustration over the 9-month search for her remains and the time it has taken to press full murder charges. They have become vocal advocates for stronger protections for domestic violence victims and more immediate responses to missing person reports involving partners with violent histories. Gabriella Dixon's murder wasn't an anomaly. It reflects a deadly pattern that claims lives across America every day. Young women between 18 and 24 face the highest risk of intimate partner homicide. The warning signs in Gabriella's case, prior strangulation, threats with weapons, and escalating control, are well-documented predictors of lethal violence. From this tragedy, several critical lessons emerge that could help prevent similar deaths. When Harris choked Gabriella in September 2023, this wasn't just another assault. It was a rehearsal for murder. Research consistently shows that non-fatal strangulation is one of the strongest predictors of future homicide in domestic violence cases. Victims who have been strangled by their partner are 750% more likely to be killed by that same partner. If you or someone you know has experienced strangulation, understand this is a 5-alarm fire requiring immediate intervention. Even a single incident of strangulation should be treated as a potential homicide in progress. The most dangerous time for victims of domestic violence is when they attempt to leave. Gabriella was actively creating distance from Harris when she was killed, a pattern that repeats in case after case. Gabriella's children not only lost their mother, but witnessed her murder. The trauma of such an experience creates lifelong psychological wounds that require specialized intervention. Gabriella Dixon's life was cut tragically short at just 18 years old. She never had the chance to see her children grow up, to build the stable future she was working toward, or to experience the full measure of her potential. Her death leaves 2 children without their mother and a family forever changed by violence. Yet her story serves a purpose beyond the tragedy itself. It stands as both a warning and a call to action, that each report of domestic violence must be taken with the utmost seriousness, that strangulation must be recognized as the deadly predictor it is, and that young mothers facing violence need comprehensive support systems that acknowledge the unique challenges they face. The peaceful neighborhood where Gabriella's remains were found will never be the same. The residents who once felt safe now understand that violence can touch any community, any family, any life. But with that understanding comes the possibility of change, of neighbors who watch out for each other, of communities that don't look away from warning signs, and of systems that respond more effectively to protect those in danger. This has been Dark Trace Crime Stories, where we venture into the darkest corners of human behavior to understand not just what happened, but why. If Gabriella's story has impacted you, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and share this video. Your simple act of sharing could reach someone who needs this information right now. In the comments below, tell us, what do you think needs to change to better protect young mothers from domestic violence? What warning signs do you think are most often missed? Your insights might help someone recognize danger before it's too late. Until next time, remember, the darkest crimes often hide in plain sight, and understanding them is the first step toward prevention.